I thought I'd address the question of paella, because it's actually a very simple and inexpensive meal to make, and you can make it quite quickly as well. It all hinges around three things: a red pepper, paella seasoning, short grain rice, ladies and gentlemen. The best way to store large quantities of rice is in used milk cartons. I got that big bag from a kind of Arabic and Turkish shop, so if you've got any of those in your hometown, that's where you'll be able to get short grain rice. You've got to have herbs, and the herb, ladies and gentlemen, is rosemary. My next door neighbour grows rosemary in a pot outside his house, and I go there in the dead of night and I snip it off. Lemon juice. You've got to serve it with lemon juice. Onions and garlic. Stock. Chicken or fish stock. And peas. Chorizo, ladies and gentlemen. Chorizo, if you've got it. It isn't a compulsory ingredient, but a good paella should have chorizo. Okay, so what time is it? It's just coming up to 7 o'clock. I would imagine that this paella will be ready by 8 o'clock, but we'll see. And I'm going to do all this in quite a small quantity, just to show that this is true bachelor cookery. Now, while I get going on this, I need to say a word to the purists out there, because there will be people from Valencia who say, yeah, this isn't real paella. And they're right. The original traditional paella is a very different thing from what you have probably tasted whilst on holiday. It contained rabbit, chicken, fava beans, green beans, and saffron. Now, the paella seasoning that you get in supermarket probably hasn't got saffron in it. Saffron these days is a very prized and expensive commodity. It's grown in places like Morocco, and they charge huge prices for it. So this isn't anything like a proper traditional paella valenciana. People either love or hate paella, usually as a result of their experiences with it on holiday as children. And I think that, we have to accept that the cat's out of the bag with paella. It's turned into a different thing than it was 100 years ago. And that's because the economics of it have changed. Spain has changed. It was peasant food. And, back in those days, some kinds of food were in short supply. Even in Ibiza, a place that I got to know very well as a youngster, I knew people there whose grandparents remembered times when there wasn't enough food on the island. And people there were very poor. And, they couldn't just... They were simple fishing and small-holding people. They couldn't just jump on a boat to the mainland and stock up with supplies. So there's garlic. My own experiences with paella as a child are good experiences. I remember that there was a beach that we used to go to, where every Sunday they would cook up a huge paella, and you could get a big plateful for 100 pesetas, which is about 40p. So I never had any bad experiences with paella. I did have a friend who had it and was sick, and he was never able to eat it again, poor chap. But there you go, you win some, you lose some. So the things that define this modern type of paella, the paella that you're more likely to have had experience of whilst on holiday, are rosemary, red pepper, because the Valencian paella didn't necessarily even have red pepper in it, peas, tomato, I'm going to use tinned, and garlic, short grain rice, and then chicken and or seafood. You can make paella with just chicken, you can make it with just seafood. I'm going to make it with both. I think it's time to turn on the heat. Now look, you can make a vegetarian paella, okay? And the best way I've found of doing it is using fried tempeh. Buy tempeh from your local organic vegan shop. Fry it with garlic and use that as a meat substitute. Or I suppose you could use TVP, textured vegetable protein, but I think really that if you're not putting meat into a paella, then you're not really making paella, and you're probably barking up the wrong tree. It'd be better just to cook something different. And so, as I say, the economics have changed in Spain. It's a different game there now. It's not the same survival game that it used to be. And so I think we have to accept that the character of paella has morphed with the times, or at least the options have changed. And paella isn't an expensive dish. There are a few items there will be a few items in this that cost some money. I mean, obviously that's a great big bucket of chicken wings for £2.80, but I'm only using one or two of them, so that will freeze and sort of be used forevermore in other things, probably barbecues too. So there's not much cost in that part. However, I am going to use some frozen seafood, and I bought a bag of mixed frozen seafood from the local supermarket. It cost about £3 or £4. Again, I'll just use a small amount of it. Chopping chicken at room temperature is a mug's game. It just slides. You try and slice it and it just slides under the knife, and it becomes very difficult to cut. The easiest way to chop chicken is semi-frozen, because it's still partially solid, but not too solid to resist your knife. So you take it out of the freezer, at which point it's as hard as a brick. Stick it in the microwave for about 20 or 30 seconds, just to take the edge off it. And then when it's semi-frozen, you can slice it very easily. I've also got a bit of homegrown chili lying around, so I think I'll put that in as well at this stage. Now, paella is traditionally cooked in a steel pan, a wide, shallow steel pan. For bachelor cookery, I'm just using a normal non-stick pan. Again, purists can take me to task over that, but that's what I'm doing. I'm also going to put some stock just as chicken stock. I'm going to put half a cube of chicken stock in this. And I usually like to get the red pepper in early so that the flavours can really percolate into the whole thing. And this is the stage at which I'm starting to think, okay, have I remembered everything? Before I start putting the rice in. So I've got onion, garlic, chorizo, chicken, red peppers. And I think also at this stage I'm going to add the seafood. I'm going to add the seafood now. Here's my supply of mixed seafood from a supermarket. It costs £3 or £4. I'll just put some of that in. I'd say that I've probably used a quarter of it. No more than a quarter. So let's say that there's 50p. So I think now I've got to the point of putting in the rice. Now, when I'm doing this on my own, I hardly ever measure the rice. But I suppose since I'm making a video about it, I ought to be conscientious. I'm going to get a glass. And I'm going to put one small glass of rice in there. And then I'll be putting an equivalent amount of liquid in. And there's something else. Herbs. Yes, herbs. Rosemary. This is a mixture of my own concoction of herbs, but there's a lot of rosemary in there. So I'll put that in too. And I'll have a bit of extra turmeric as well, just to make it nice and yellow. And a little bit of extra salt, not much. And my paella seasoning. Just a little bit of it. I don't measure things, I'm sorry to say. Life's too short. Now that it's done that, it's time to add something slightly liquid. Tomatoes, ladies and gentlemen. I'm using chopped. And I will add probably about a third. Third of that? Yeah, third. Quarter to a third. And then start with an equivalent amount, 1 glass of water. Let's see how much it takes. The liquid should all be taken up so that in the final kind of 10 minutes or so of cooking, the rice roasts a little bit at the bottom of the pan. Please note there are no mushrooms. You never put mushrooms into paella. If you start cooking with mushrooms, then you're not cooking Spanish anymore, or at least you're not cooking paella. You're cooking, you're into something oriental. And I'm leaving the peas until last because I want them to still be bright green, and I'm using frozen peas. I could use green beans. I do grow beans, and in season I would probably forget the peas and put in green beans. Actually, I'm going to add something. This obviously won't be part of your recipe, but I also grow garlic, and when garlic puts out shoots you have to cut them off, and if you chop them and freeze them you can cook them. So here are garlic shoots. I'm going to put some of those in, just because the dish at the moment is a little bit on the oily side and I want more green stuff in there. At this point, if you wanted more green vegetables in, for flavour you could add, but that's, For instance, you could put in any cauliflower or broccoli stalks, that you'd saved. Alright, well I think this is nearly done. The liquid has almost all come off, and so now it's time to add the peas. And then just allow it a few more minutes to really roast on the bottom. Now I added up the cost of this and I came to what? About £2, what was it? £2.20 or something? Anyway, a lot cheaper than going out to McDonald's for the night. But I could equally well have made a larger paella. Oh, I suppose I should factor in energy costs as well. Heaven knows how much that would be. I mean, I've had the gas on very low for about an hour. So put in another, I don't know, 20p for that or something. But it probably isn't even that. So I could have made a much larger paella. This amount here is, you know, it's a big plate for a single person. You could feed two on this if you haven't got gargantuan appetites. But I could have put in more. And I think I'm just going to put the lid on loosely for the last little bit, just to get that real roast on the bottom of the pan. I think that's more or less done. So I'm going to serve it in a traditional Mediterranean dish. I'm going to turn off the heat. There, I've got that nice kind of roasted effect on the bottom. And when you see this in a restaurant, you will see obviously mussel shells, because they'll use fresh mussels in the Mediterranean, and you'll have the shells. No shells here because I've just used frozen mussels. A nice big delicious plate of paella. Lemon juice. Absolutely crucial. Again, on your Mediterranean holiday, you've probably got lemons with it to squeeze, but you can buy bottles of lemon juice. It costs practically nothing. Delicious.